The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to, I don't know what you call this, group therapy session of Soccer to the Max, or, the U.S. men's national team will not be going to the World Cup because they lost to Trinidad and Tobago 2-1, Panama defeated Costa Rica 2-1, and Honduras defeated Mexico 3-2. Panama directly qualifies. Honduras directly qualifies, right? Which one is it?
No.
Panama. Is it? Yeah, okay. So either way, they're qualified. One of them plays Australia. So which one is it?
Honduras is in the playoff.
Okay, so Honduras and Australia go in the playoff, which will be played in November. Guys, first of all, I need to welcome the former co-host of this show when it's in other forms. Proud to have back Mr. Matt Pollard on awful circumstances, but Matt...
Ginger Ninja at your service is my old catchphrase and everything. Sean, I've been meaning to come on for a while now, at least just for us to touch base, talk soccer. We've loved having you on the few times that we've had you on Last Word SC Radio. Even in my wildest nightmares, did not anticipate this being the circumstances upon which I make a less than triumphant return to your podcast.
Erik and Rachael are both here too. Let's just get into this, guys. An absolute, I don't know what you call this, but in the first 45 minutes, they were sleepwalking. There was no urgency. I don't even know what that was out there. And then they come out in the second half. Pulisic scores early. You think they're going to turn it around. And they go right back to the whole let's not play with any urgency. Yeah, for the most part, until the last, 5 minutes when Panama scored that second goal, which the first goal Panama scored was not a goal. Total CONCACAF. But, hey, it happens. And the U.S. just nothing. Matt, I don't even know how to deal with this right now. It's like, this is not the same. What happened to the team that we saw play against Panama?
Well, I'm going to quote Bruce Arena right here when he was speaking with Julie Stewart-Banks, Sean. He said, what have you given any thought to Trinidad and Tobago? And he said, not 1 second. We're 100% focused on Panama. And the U.S. national team went out there, and it seemed prior to the starting whistle, they hadn't given any thought to Trinidad and Tobago. I thought this was an afterthought completely. There was no tactical plan whatsoever offensively. You had multiple players shifting off defensively. I know I'm going to get hell for this because I'm an LA Galaxy fan, but Omar Gonzalez asleep at the wheel. Normally that results in him letting the forward get past him. In this case, he puts it into the own back of his net. Tim Howard was asleep on at least 3 or 4 plays, not just the 2 goals that he let in on. This as fantastic of a team performance and a gut check win that Friday night was in Orlando. This was the exact opposite in Trinidad and Tobago tonight.
Rachael, this, obviously lots of problems here. What do you think? What'd you see?
Well, I just read a quote from Bruce Arena's press conference saying, what we're doing, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. There's something wrong with an own goal, using way too many, I would say, outdated or under-talented MLS players. There's a problem with what U.S. soccer is doing because we just missed out on our first World Cup since 1986, and there was no urgency at all tonight whatsoever. There was just, honestly, if there were 2 words that I could use, it would be unmotivated, and lazy. They were lazy tonight, bottom line.
Erik?
First of all, I'm going to preface this by saying I am so angry, I am currently sitting here itching. I am just so angry. I'm itchy. I'm just blaming this on a stress rash. I had said all throughout the campaign, I don't trust Bruce Arena. I never trusted his tactics, even with his pragmatism. Fine. He flat out said out of the gate, he's going to have his style, his preferences. He's going to use MLS guys. What happened tonight?
Did he really have a style, though? He switched the formation and switched guys around all the time. I mean...
Okay, but with as far as actual tactics, X's and O's and arrows, you're right. He switched. But guess what? He warned us from the get-go. He said, these European-based players are going to be an afterthought. That bubbled up through the campaign. Now you have an MLS-heavy team. Look at what happened. And I had been saying for months, do not fall asleep at the wheel if you're the U.S. Do not leave it to this match against Trinidad and Tobago. Do not pay attention to the percentages because somehow, some way, that team, just like they were celebrating in 89 and we shocked them out of the World Cup for Italy 90, we would be celebrating and they would do the same thing and do us in complete revenge. Look what just happened. I'm done. Fire Sunil Gulati, fire Bruce Arena, clean the whole damn house.
Well, I
Let's
mean,
start fresh right now.
There's no way that Bruce Arena has... I don't think Bruce Arena had a job after the World Cup anyway. I don't think that's the problem. I think what you're talking about here with Gulati and anyone above Arena, they might need to start thinking about things right now. Matt, I mean... I want to go to a point of what Rachel said. You know, you cover Colorado and the Galaxy MLS for Last Word on soccer every week. You see these players all the time. You know, we talk about it on our podcast. We know what the level of quality is in MLS. It's improved throughout the years, but obviously it doesn't equal out to, you know, what the talent is in Europe. But is it really based down to having the more MLS squad here, or is it more just about this group of players that went out here today, regardless of where you play? We've seen them play better. It's the same exact team. What the hell?
I'm going to agree completely with you on this one, Sean. I don't think this is an MLS thing. My old co-host, Joe Hanacki, who's now with SBI Soccer, just tweeted out, MLS lost tonight, NASL lost tonight, USL lost tonight, Pro Rel for USA lost tonight. Nobody wins tonight in all of the American soccer landscape. I guess, maybe there's a young, totally lost on who I was thinking of who would have gotten snubbed from this roster. But in any case, maybe one of them wins tonight. But, other than that, I think, Omar Gonzalez had the own goal. He plays in Pachuca. He hasn't been in MLS since the end of 2015. That was a late November game in 2015. He played with the LA Galaxy when they were eliminated. So he had a poor performance tonight. DeAndre Edlin looked okay. He's getting regular minutes in the Premier League, widely regarded as one of the top 4 leagues domestically in the country. I think this is more a systematic thing. I think this was a collective failure of coaches, of players, and on a whole, they had a chance to get it done tonight, but really they dug themselves into a hole. And I'm not going to bring up Jurgen Klinsmann other than mentioning the fact that he was the head coach of those first 2 games. But this was, on the whole of qualification, this was a collective failure on multiple levels. And I don't think we can just blame it on an individual player. We certainly can't blame it on an individual coach at this point. I don't think we can blame it on a collection of players called up from an individual league, including Major League Soccer.
What do you do then if you're? Before we get into big picture stuff, is there anything else from this game that one of y'all want to talk about? Because I feel like it's beyond this game at this point. It doesn't really matter. Whatever we talk about.
Fonset, that goalkeeper, makes 3 or 4 amazing saves that he doesn't make any one of those. We're having a very different tone in conversation right now. So I guess credit to it's a little bit befitting that, Paul Caligiuri eliminates Trinidad and Tobago, 27, 28 years ago today, whatever it was, that now they have effectively a C team, a group of players who are going to be part of the team for the next World Cup qualification cycle, the next couple of Gold Cups, eliminate the United States, and it's almost befitting that Panama gets it done given what the United States did to them last year. So soccer comes full circle, and, it's in funny ways it gives opportunities to people for redemption, and unfortunately it was the 2 countries the U.S. had wronged previously who got redemption tonight.
Tim Howard's done. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I used to be a goalkeeper in high school. I used to play the sport, but I'm no Tim Howard. I'm no Hope Solo. But that second goal, if you're shooting that from that looked like 15, 20 yards out, you need to make that save. And that just proves, I used to totally ignore the people that would be like, oh, Tim Howard, you're not the 2014 Belgium goalkeeper. But you know what? They're right. He isn't. And it's time. My whole thought process with even Arena calling in the goalkeepers that he did, Brad Guzan and Nick Armando, at this point, Jesse Gonzalez is probably thinking, why the hell did I switch over from Mexico to the United States if they're just going to put me on the bench and not even call me up?
Well, let's be honest, though. Jesse Gonzalez is how old? I mean, he's got 19? A lot of time left. He's got a lot of time left.
But he should have been there over either Guzan or Nick Armando.
Right, but if you're going to start Howard, does it really matter?
Yes, because you're not going to start Howard in all 10 Hex matches. No,
you're not. But Jesse Gonzalez waited until the Gold Cup to switch over. I mean, I think the point of this is, and we should also give credit to the Trinidad attacking players too, who actually looked like they cared a lot more than the U.S. defenders. They were actually trying to score goals.
And honestly, it could have been even worse because there were two key moments at that match: the Gonzalez tackle in the box, Yedlin tackle in the box. Yedlin, his back heel got a piece of the ball. Clean tackle, great play. Gonzalez completely whiffed. That should have been a penalty, and that should have given TNT a chance to make it 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think, is it any different if Panama doesn't give in that phantom goal? I don't know, but I think we're grasping at straws at that point. I'm sure that's going to come up for some people, but for me, that's just grasping at straws at that point. You knew what it was at halftime. You acted like you knew what it was when you first came out there, and then after that, I don't understand.
Oh, and they did. They were routinely getting messages about scoring updates from the other two matches throughout the match. They had a lot of people scoreboard watching for them.
Okay, but if you are, why is this team not playing with urgency then?
Because they were lazy.
The point of this game was to win.
Yeah, and clearly they didn't want it.
Yeah, the point of this game was we're celebrating. This is a coordination. This is a formality. We got this in the bag and blah, 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 blah. Then next thing you know, we get a gigantic Soca Warrior hand pimp slapping us for 90 minutes.
Yes. Congrats to Panama and Honduras for making it. Mexico, Costa Rica, they will represent CONCACAF. If Honduras gets to beat Australia, which the way Tim Cahill played, I don't know, that's going to be a tough one. Dude is still hitting in headers.
Panama, they're in for the first time ever.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's cool. Iceland, Panama, in for first time evers. I mean, that's the cool thing about the World Cup. But sadly, the U.S. out for the first time in, I think, all of our lifetimes here on this podcast.
Yep.
I was born November '86, so after the World Cup. So, it's.
I was actually born. I was born June of '86, so I was like within a few days before the Hand of God goal.
Ah, cool, interesting.
Yeah, so take that for what it's worth.
I think it's safe to say that Matt and I weren't even thought of.
No, my parents had just gotten married, end of calendar year '86.
So it's, Matt, like, is it a wholesale change at this point? Should even Sunil Gulati be wondering about his job, or are they going to even go that high?
I am currently tweeting out from @LastWordSC on Twitter a bunch of polls asking about Gulati, Bradley, and a whole bunch of players. I mean, I kind of felt like I think there should definitely be an election, and I don't think it should be an afterthought by anyone in the American soccer landscape to think that Gulati's just going to win at this point. I personally think that he should resign. I just think similar to how we talk about National League coaches and 2 cycles, that's too much of the same message for the players to handle. I think maybe we need some new and fresh ideas at the top. I think Gulati's done a lot to help American soccer. I think in the net positive, generations from now, we'll say that his hiring of Jurgen Klinsmann was a good idea or a step in the right direction, or at least trying something outside the box. But I think it's time for some new ideas. I think Bruce Arena should stay on long enough for U.S. Soccer to officially appoint a new head coach. I think that's, in my humble opinion, entirely a function of how long Sporting Kansas City goes in the playoffs, because I think it's Peter Vermees or nobody at this point, if you ask me personally. And I think we should see other changes in leadership. I think it kind of depends on the individual players. I think we've got enough young crop of goalkeepers that I think it's time for Howard to step down. I think Guzan maybe has a couple of years left. I don't think Beasley was playing past 2018. But if there was any player who was realistically thinking at the end of Russia 2018, whether I'm playing or not, I'm stepping down from national team duty, I think now would probably be an apt time to make that decision, and maybe not make it public tonight, but in the next coming weeks, or certainly by the end of the calendar year.
I mean, personally, I say let them do it like the Brazilians did in 1950. Those that stay around, don't select them. Those that decided not to stay around, they retired from international duty quickly, quietly. Everybody moved on.
Yeah, I think Dempsey is going to score his goal in a friendly, and then he'll retire. Wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, the only good thing about this for me is that, the great stuff we're seeing in the under-17 World Cup right now, for the U.S., the under-20 World Cup, getting into the quarterfinals, those players might get look-ins now where, I think once you get rid of Arena, and whether it's Peter, and I agree with you, if you're going to look at a American coach, which we can say what we want, but I don't think the U.S. is ready for another foreign coach for a long time. Even if I like Oscar Pereira, I don't think even he would be okay with people right now. It would have to be.
What about Jesse Marsh? I know his name has been tossed around a while.
I mean, he wants to be a UEFA coach. I mean, he wants to coach in Europe. So I don't know. I feel like he would want to go coach another club team outside of MLS first before he takes a job like the U.S. men's national team, where he's barely having things to do with players. And I mean, what do you think about that, Matt? Jesse Marsh?
I'd be open to it. As I said previously, I think Peter Vermees is my first choice, but I think it's certainly worth calling in Jesse Marsh and interviewing him. I don't know that he's as interested as you just mentioned. Other than Jason Christ, I have been really underwhelmed with what he's done, having an actual budget in Orlando. He's really the only other American coach in the last World Cup cycle, not just as of this 2017 MLS season, who I think should be in consideration as far as first team MLS coaches. I don't know if there's anybody else in the spectrum. I don't think anybody, on Bruce Arena's staff should be considered. Maybe if Bruce resigns, you say, okay, just because of how much Dave Sarakin has done with the Galaxy and with the national team, maybe you appoint him as interim just until you officially sign that new head coach. But other than that, I think it's Peter Vermees, 1. I think it's Jesse Marsh, 1A. And then I think after that, then you might be digging down maybe an Oscar Pereira. I don't know that if Bob Bradley was still available, maybe I'd consider that, just as a retread, just as a thought.
He did show up at the in the Panama training camp.
Should have showed up today too.
Yeah, I don't think he would though. I think I would feel that he would probably just want to be at LAFC and doing what he's doing. The only other one I could think of maybe is perhaps you think about. I know he's doing great stuff as technical director and everything for youth soccer, but maybe Tab Ramos.
Now I need to see him do something else on the actual coaching people on a daily basis first. I think he'll absolutely be a candidate for a number of the MLS jobs that are available and going to become available this year and next year, but I don't know that I don't know that I would pull that trigger on him just yet, especially when I think there are other qualified candidates who are potentially available.
we were talking about, you just mentioned it, everybody in U.S. top down. It makes that NASL, U.S. soccer, fight that's going on right now seem kind of almost silly when your top national team is not making it to the World Cup. But what is the damage here? Really, will this cause what we've seen with other national teams where they miss out on a World Cup and they're going to regroup and come time for Qatar, this is going to be a different situation? Or do you think this hurts us until even 2026 where you're here because you're the host?
Personally, if things don't bounce the right way and we don't get this right now, United States soccer will easily be feeling the effects of this until 2030. Easily. I don't say that as any hyperbole, because you're now not just talking about this lawsuit, which whole different meaning now because of this. We're not just talking the next cycle leading up to Qatar. We're talking about what this would mean economically. We could regroup a little bit if we do get the bid, especially given the competition. I get that. But you pointed it out yourself. It would just be like 94. We're here because we're the hosts. We're still building from scratch. Nobody would take us seriously until 2030. That's why I say from up at the top, clean house. Gulati gone. We get a legitimate technical director for our senior teams and even something for our Olympic team. Tab Ramos and everybody far down, keep them right where they are. They're at least doing something right. But if I'm anybody at U.S. Soccer House, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm going to keep looking over my shoulder for the next 18 months. Because this will not be pretty. We have potentially set ourselves back almost 15 years tonight.
What do you think is Rachel? I mean, what do you think that needs to be done here?
I mean, I think Erik said it perfectly. Our youth system is obviously doing something right. I mean, look at how our youth teams do in their respective World Cups and in their respective tournaments. Keep that the same, but you know what? Yeah, clean the house out. Gulati needs to go. Bruce Arena, I mean, he was going to be gone even if we qualified as soon as the World Cup ended almost. U.S. soccer needs to sit down and prioritize. And now that we're knocked out of this World Cup, our priority now is bringing up the younger players. Keep your eyes peeled for overseas players, because you still got players like Cameron Carter-Vickers, who doesn't have a big spotlight on him like Christian Pulisic, but he's a dual national. He's doing well in club. He doesn't get the chances to get called up, and in my own personal opinion, I think that's because you got somebody like Bruce Arena in charge. Look at the dual national players, and we'll get to this. I want to make this point later, but look at dual national players who have been ignored. I know Bruce Arena loves his MLS, but there should be a 50-50 focus, because I've said it once, I've said it twice, I will say it another 500 times. If you want to beat these teams, not even just in CONCACAF, but in World Cups and in major tournaments and stuff, you need them playing in the best leagues against the best opponents. And that sure ain't in MLS. That's over in Europe.
I want to bring up a quote there from Sunil Gulati right now. He says, "You don't make wholesale changes on a ball being 2 inches wide or 2 inches in. We'll look at everything." Matt, what is looking at everything?
Okay, well, I've kind of we've a lot of people have laid out what they think should happen in the big picture, and I agree that our youth system is generally trending in the right direction. By the end of this European club football season, we're going to potentially have 3 or 4 players, under the age of 21, starting or playing regular minutes in a top division in Europe. Potentially we could be looking at Kellen Acosta, a number of other younger players who are going to be starting regularly. I don't subscribe to the notion that automatically this set us back a decade. I agree with Gulati in the sense that, a ball goes 2 feet wide. Is that really that indicative of the system that far down? I think to bring up Alexi Lawless's point that, this older generation has kind of been very up and down, and a lot was given to them on the backs of the previous generation, and they maybe, other than, getting out of the group in 2014, have been underwhelming, so to speak. I think it's time to clean house and clean out the cobwebs. But I mean, let's say they bring in Peter Vermees or Jesse Marsh. Let's say, in January camp or the next time that the U.S. has a meaningful game, even if it's a friendly against competition that we're not going to compete for a World Cup spot, and, we're playing guys in their early 20s, in their teenagers, so to speak. I have all the faith in the world that, Christian Pulisic is going to be a way better player, 4 years from now than he was tonight. I could say the same thing about Kellen Acosta. I could say the same thing about DeAndre Yedlin, about John Anthony Brooks, potentially a young new goalkeeper we have in there. Like, the sky isn't immediately falling. We're not automatically set back a decade. We weren't eliminated from the 2022 World Cup cycle, and there's still plenty of time for us to fix that. It's just going to take the right decisions and I think the right moves now. And I think Gulati's going to do his due diligence, and maybe Gulati's bosses rightfully should do their due diligence on him as well.
The players are obviously coming out and talking now. Omar Gonzalez said that we let our country down. This is the worst moment of my career, as you'd expect for any of these players. This is Clint Dempsey's last World Cup that he didn't get to be in. So, like I said, his record-breaking goal will be in a friendly that means absolutely nothing, because now the U.S. will not have a meaningful game again until the 2019 Gold Cup. I've heard this word thrown around, and I don't know how much we want to consider ourselves media. If Rachael writes for a newspaper, we write here, you write for Last Word on Soccer, Matt, have a high position there. The word arrogance from the media, from soccer fans, from soccer fans, of expecting the U.S. is just going to make it. How much is in there, and how much does that go into everything U.S. soccer is about, of just expecting? It felt like that way from the players on this evening, of just saying, we're the U.S., we are a giant in CONCACAF, we're going to make it.
Was that to me?
Yeah, I mean, what is like? I've heard that thrown around, and now people can shut up now, right? They can just.
I mean, I think I saw some entitlement on the field tonight. So I think there was some of that, going on tonight. Maybe that was given the result. I don't know that it was necessarily given, Pulisic reading his Twitter feed and getting the love after Friday, so to speak. I think some of the arrogance does come out in the fan base. I've got ESPN on right now, and nobody's thinking about this. There's one thing that everybody in the Netherlands was talking about today from a sports standpoint. So, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. I think there's some arrogance from the casual fan base. I think maybe there's some arrogance when looking at the greater whole of, CONCACAF, and just, how poor and how young the Trinidad and Tobago team that the United States lost was tonight. I'd probably want to pose that question to the players before sizing up that beyond their standing in the hex, that it was entitlement, arrogance, afterthought, presumption that led to the team losing tonight and the poor performance tonight.
And honestly, I completely agree with Matt. You go anywhere into a coffee shop in the Netherlands and get yourself a space cake, what are they talking about? They were talking about their situation with Iran in the World Cup. What are you talking about with the being in Espanyol? They were immediately saying, who's at fault for Chile not qualifying for the World Cup? You get this coverage here in the U.S., and it was so terribly presumptuous, and everybody was just banking on this latest wave of momentum.
Well, they did have Taylor Twellman cut in on ESPN News. Well, I should say ESPN News. They didn't have him cut in on ESPN or ESPN2. I would say that they do have an important baseball game going on, I think, on that channel. So, whatever. But
they don't.
They have something going on one of the ESPNs that they can't just cut in like that. But it just... Well, at the time, when the game ended, they did. When the game ended. Not now. When the game ended.
And I kind of want to bring this up to a point. Two kind of fringe things that I think are going to be more at the forefront. One for us directly, and the other for us as a part of CONCACAF. Number one, and you brought this up in chat, our Olympic team has been struggling, and I want to piggyback off of what Matt said. A lot of, potentially as many as 4 key players, 21 and under, getting significant minutes for top European clubs. How is that, while it would be a great boost to our senior team, where is that going to go as far as our Olympic team, try to get them off of the schneid and further the development from the U17s and U20s? That's one thing I'm thinking about. And number 2...
Well, I mean, those U17 and those U20 players could play in the Olympics because it's just you just have to be under 23.
Right, and this is my point. So you further along with that. And number 2, with this and any potential moves and shakeups of U.S. soccer because of this, how is this going to affect any sort of Nations League that we were trying to do? Now what?
I feel like that would encourage it happening more, right? When one of the biggest teams in the region fails to qualify and shows that, I mean, look, Panama, Honduras has been a perennial, really good team, usually always third and fourth. Panama has improved over the years. So, you know, they were the teams that were going to be in it. But we saw in the Gold Cup how many of these teams are getting better, you know, the Jamaicas and even Trinidad for, you know, certain cases can be made. I still am in one of that belief that as cool as it would be to follow UEFA and have that kind of thing, we still got to remember that a lot of the teams in CONCACAF are way below par, and you're hurting yourself if you wind up not having friendlies because against bigger teams, you know, the bigger nations, you know, out there, going to Europe, going to play those teams instead, and you're just playing more CONCACAF teams all the time. I don't know. Do you think this affects anything like that, Matt, of one way or the other of them deciding, okay, we're going to do this?
I think we should contact the Netherlands and we should contact Chile and we should have our own outside FIFA tournament next summer in the United States.
Yes!
That's how I feel about this. That's how I feel about this right now.
Matt, I am in. The two of us need to start working on that. And if you don't mind, I would like to push to have a couple of those matches in Denver, and I need to be out there to cover it for, well, reasons.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Anything else you guys want to bring up here?
Yeah, I want to bring up a point about the dual nationals because that's kind of my area of expertise. Matt, I don't know if you've heard on the show, but I'm from Russia.
Yes.
So this loss certainly breaks my heart. Either way, I'm still planning on going to the World Cup just because, you know, it's in my home country. And, I mean, that just combines two of my favorite things, the beautiful game and the beautiful country. So either way, I'm still going to go. But anyway, I think Bruce Arena owes these dual national players a hell of an apology. I know John Brooks is injured, but I just couldn't help but sit there and wonder if John Brooks, Tim Chandler, Fabian Johnson, Danny Williams, for goodness sakes, Danny Williams, who has been so consistent this last year, if they were involved either more in the hex or just in this match, again, I know John Brooks is injured, but not the other three. If they were involved more, this outcome, I guarantee you, would have been different. And I still say that if Jeff Cameron would have started. It blows my mind that, like I said, they're getting the best coaching, they're getting the best competition, they're playing a much faster game than the MLS. It amazes me that once Bruce Arena took charge, it was like dual nationals were either being ignored, undermined, or not used right. And I think out of all of the dual nationals, Danny Williams is the one that deserves the biggest apology. And after him, it's a tie between Tim Chandler and Fabian Johnson. It blows my mind to see that the dual nationals, my opinion, got little to, I don't know why there's someone screaming in my hall, but if you hear screaming, please ignore that. College is awful.
You're in college, it happens.
Anyway, I think the new coach, whether it be, how do you say Sporting Kansas City's coach's last name? Peter
Vermees.
Peter Vermees, Jesse Marsh, anyone. They need to learn that dual nationals, people playing in Europe and stuff, that is what's going to get this team to the next level.
Matt, you want to answer first?
I don't completely disagree. I think Danny Williams has been one of the guys shut out, not only by Bruce Arena, but by Jurgen Klinsmann in the last year and a half. I'm not a big Timmy Chandler fan. I don't know that he could have had much better of an impact than Jorge Villafano or DeAndre Yedlin tonight, or even in these two games, or in the hexagonal on a whole front. I think the question about Fabian Johnson is poignant by looking at what Darlington Nagbe was able to do on the wing, and Darlington Nagbe has just not been effective in the 4-4-2 diamond or from a wide role. I think he's okay centrally when you have him together with Michael Bradley, but that kind of necessitates you can't have them doing that in a 4-2-3-1, and I don't think Nagbe's going to be successful as a number 8 on the international level. So then you subscribe to being a 4-4-2, and then Pulisic is out on the wing, kind of isolated. That allows teams like Honduras and Panama to just bully and keep him there. I don't know that's good for the team, even though it works for Darlington Nagbe individually. So if you're going to put him out wide and you don't see that creation, I think I'd rather have a guy who's a starting winger on a championship caliber team in the Bundesliga than a guy who's, the second or third best attacking player on probably the third best team in the Western Conference in Major League Soccer. I still love Darlington Nagbe. I just don't think that that's his best role. And if we're going to subscribe to playing Pulisic the way we've had and the certain formations that we've had to in order to get him to be the most effective with his forwards, there's not a spot for Darlington Nagbe to start on either of those two positions, certainly not over Fabian Johnson.
Nagbe's more ideal for the X formation, if you ask me.
Oh, Lord, you in that X formation. I'm sorry. I just wanted to...
I can't agree enough with what Matt said. I can't agree with that enough.
Well, even then, if you wanted to leave things the same, I think Villafana just showed you in this game that he wasn't playing well at all, that you still don't know what your situation at left back is, and Fabian Johnson could have played there if you had to keep Nagbe on the left there. Johnson is still a better option than Villafana is. And I think, like, I've sat here and tried to be the pro MLS person on this show, mainly because we talk about MLS when we're not talking about the U.S. men's national team. And, it becomes harder and harder sometimes to sit there and go, man, Rachael might be right on this situation. Like, the guys that have made the biggest things happen, even in the Panama game, Pulisic, Bobby Wood, all these guys that are playing outside of MLS. And even then, I just want to make this point that regardless of who's playing what. The team that was out there on the pitch in Trinidad tonight should have won that game. Should have found a way to get the equalizer, draw, and get to the World Cup. And then when you're in those friendlies and you want to talk about who's actually going to the World Cup, that's a whole different scenario. That team should have been able to beat Trinidad and actually show urgency, and then you figure out what you're going to do after that. It's sad to me that we're having to have this conversation and know that in 9 months we're gonna be doing previews. We're gonna be talking about the World Cup. We're gonna be talking about all these teams, and the one team we're not gonna be able to talk about is the United States because of what they did.
Not just even in 9 months. Guess what? The World Cup draw is in December.
Right. I mean, that's going to hit you more. But when they start playing, that's when it really, really hurts. Because you're having to watch that tournament for a whole month, and you know that the U.S. is not there, and then you got to wait another 4 years. That's 4 years of your life that aren't guaranteed, let me tell you.
Oh, my God.
That's a true.
So I'm just saying, like, you know, we'll be 34, 35. Some of you guys are going to be younger. Erik and I are going to be 34, 35. And, or 33, 34, whatever. I can't count right now. But it's like.
Or 2022, during that World Cup, I'm going to be turning 36.
Okay, I can't. See, I told you I can't count right now. I am so disheartened by what's happening. I can't. My point is, with all the stuff that's going on right now, we don't know what's going to happen until then, in the build-up till then. So it's just like, man, this is just it's going to suck watching that draw, but it's going to suck worse covering that World Cup, doing things for that World Cup, and you're not talking about, even though we know the U.S. men's basketball team's not going to win, right? But at least getting to hope that they get out of the group and get to the quarterfinals, all those things that you like talking about, we don't get that either. And it's just,
Rachael, this means that on our trip over to Russia, I'm going to be drinking more vodka. I can guarantee that there will be shenanigans. Just don't stop me. I'll know what I'm doing.
Matt, I mean, I know it's got to be like awful for you looking ahead and saying, I can't believe the U.S. is not in this. Matt? Oh, he might have had to go.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I was asking.
I have nothing to add. You have taken all of the words that I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Other than maybe the Gary part about shenanigans, I don't think that I would be going that crazy. Flight to Russia or not.
You haven't known me long enough, good sir.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's not how I would do it. That's all of the other words I agree with completely and would have said.
Anything else you guys want to? I don't know, Matt. I mean, I hope that Peter. So like, you know, we all watch this. What do you think Peter Maurice would bring? Let's say he is named the coach.
Well, I think one of the problems the United States has had for a while, maybe, you know, Bruce 1.0 going back to the early 2000s and Bob Bradley were good at the emotional aspects of the game and certain components of the tactics. But the tactics and the way we had and the talent we had, we were set up to maybe not play like minnows, but play a very distinct and non-World Cup winning style of play. And I'm not subscribing fully to the Alexi Laws. Well, if we're not here to win the World Cup, then why are we even here at this tournament, so to speak? So, but I think what Vermees would bring, what Jesse Marsh would bring, would be some new tactical ideas that maybe would be a little bit more nuanced than what Bruce Arena had done. Certainly more detailed and technically complex than what Jurgen Klinsmann had done, and certainly better than, you know, old Bruce Arena and certainly what Bob Bradley did in the 2010s. So I think, you know, certainly Vermees, whether it's in planning, you know, the hashtag sporting fit or the 4-3-3 would be effective. I think the United States needs a distinct style. We've seen what Costa Rica's been able to do over the course of the last 2 World Cup cycles, implementing, the 3-5-2, the 5-3-2, and how modular it is and where everybody fits in with that. And with having that distinct system and building your players and your youth teams to produce players for that distinct system, you're able to punch above your weight when other countries are talent superior to you. I think the U.S. hasn't really had that in any of the 4 previous coaches that they've had. I think a Vermees would bring that. I think a Jesse Marsch would bring that, just in slightly different ways.
Yeah, I also like the fact that with Burmese, because he's used to dealing with the SKC academy and everything, he might be more willing to look at younger players, give different guys a chance. He's not going to have that attachment, let's say, to that older generation, right? To the generation that Bruce lived in with MLS and watching those guys. I think you'll get a fresher take on who really should be here, and I think that's the one plus of this is we get to now we get a long time to see who really is up and coming talents. Maybe you discover another Pulisic that can play on this team alongside him. Maybe you discover all sorts of different guys in different positions that we didn't even know about because we were never giving them a shot because you had to bring in the old guard to play in the World Cup. And I feel like Peter Vermees or Jesse Marsch are going to give us that best shot too. So, yeah, it's trying like grasping at straws to find anything positive to talk about, but it's just not here. I think, unless you guys have something else you want to bring up, I think that pretty much sums it up. It's somber time for us.
Gotta root for Russia now.
Yeah, you can root for Russia. That's good.
And my other half is still in.
Matt,
I'm officially on the Iceland bandwagon, so hashtag the Ice Age cometh as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Ireland could still make it, Matt. So, there's that.
Okay, we'll wait and see in Ireland.
At least you have rooting interest. I never thought that I would be thankful for my conundrums until tonight, yet here I sit.
Erik, just jump on the Russia bandwagon with me.
Well, Venezuela's probably never making a World Cup until at least 2026 when there's like 48 teams in there. So,
John,
I still...
Jamaica, Bahamas. Shall I keep going? You at least have a modicum of hope. Right now, I got nothing.
Yeah, we did get the under-20 World Cup surprise. That was still like a highlight of my morning, getting to sadly watch them lose, but it was still awesome to see them get there. But yeah, it's... Hey, we still got the under-17 World Cup to watch, right? 6 points leading that group. No, but
hey, just remember the U.S. Women's National Team World Cup 2019.
Yeah, thank God for the U.S. women. Just let's hope that Jill Ellis doesn't frustrate us.
Jill.
So, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on. You have been an illumination of words here. Just great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Ted Westervelt has started tweeting at me, so if you excuse me, I need to go get gaslit.
All right, man. Well, guys, we will be back tomorrow talking about MLS, where they are a week from decision day. SKC has a big game against Houston, and they play each other on the weekend again. The NWSL playoffs have reached the championship, that also takes place on Saturday. It's the top 2 teams that were pretty much the whole season neck and neck. Portland and North Carolina playing each other. We'll talk more about that on Wednesday. But once again, here we are. U.S. eliminated from the World Cup. Panama, Honduras, Mexico, and Costa Rica all going through. Honduras now has to deal with Australia. You guys, who you got in that? I think Australia is gonna get through.
I hope they do.
I got to see Tim Cahill in one more World Cup. It's amazing what that man can do still.
I also need New Zealand to win their playoffs, too, so I can hear Erik scream mailman more.
Mailman!
That's set. I'm sorry, but I really like that Peru team, so I have to disagree.
The only
on that
reason
one.
I would want Peru is because I have a professor and he's Peruvian, and, maybe he'd give me an A if I told him I like Peru.
Hey, you never know. Doesn't hurt to try. Argentina did make it. Oh, we should. Well, why don't we just go ahead and talk about the rest of all the people that we know have qualified while we're here?
Can I give an extra shout out to Ray Hudson? Because his call on Messi's third goal, I implore you, as soon as it's available on YouTube or something, do yourself a favor and listen to it. It's
that guy with Messi all
Yes.
the time is wonderful. Like, just
Yes.
he loves Messi to death. Of course, he is huge in the La Liga games, calling anything, because he makes like a mundane pass sound like it was the most majestic thing on planet Earth. That Ray Hudson is just he's a gift to soccer commentary. I know a lot of people hate him or whatever, but it's so we did get I guess let's start in. We already know CONCACAF. Let's talk about CONMEBOL here. Messi with a hat trick, like Erik was just talking about. That gets him in a third. Peru winds up drawing, so they get into the playoff. Colombia gets through, Uruguay and Brazil, and Chile out. They are the champions of America, South America. They played badly in the Confederations Cup that we saw. They did not look like themselves at all. They've been like that, it feels like, since then in the CONMEBOL qualifying, and they're out.
And it's funny, tonight Uruguay scored 6 goals. Just 2 of them counted for Bolivia. I mean, it was so good, they were scoring against themselves. But Bolivia wasn't going to do it. They had to make it interesting somehow.
Yeah, I find it difficult that Peru won't beat New Zealand to get through that playoff, but you never know the way things have been. But hey,
get on it, mailman. I'm counting on you for once.
Brazil 41 points, 10 more than Uruguay. I mean, if that's not a favorite for the World Cup, I don't know what is. They're ridiculous. France qualified. Sweden in the playoff. Portugal qualified. So you're going to get the top 3 players in the world are for sure in the World Cup. Neymar, Ronaldo, Messi. Germany had qualified previously. Northern Ireland in the playoff. Serbia qualified. Republic of Ireland in the playoff, just edging out Wales. Poland in, Denmark in the playoff. England in. Slovakia winds up the team that doesn't make it because they were the lowest point total. Italy in the playoff, Greece in the playoff, and Croatia. Iceland, Belgium, Spain all qualify from Europe. And we'll find out the draw for the seeded and unseeded teams a little later, and then they'll play each other. Just a crazy, and then you got teams qualified from Africa. Have you seen the Egypt call from Egypt getting in? That was crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a GIF going around of the call of Egypt making the World Cup on there. It was a penalty by Salah from Liverpool. And yeah, pretty cool. Bob Bradley even sent him a congratulations. Beaten Uganda. Senegal qualified. Morocco qualified. Nigeria in there. I think they still have one more round, so Congo could still technically get in for Tunisia.
Now Senegal, is this their first time qualifying since 90?
No, remember they were in the 2002.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, my mistake.
So, yeah, it's just it's a cool moment to know all these times qualify. You thought it was going to be the U.S., but it's not.
I kept warning people, and people thought that I was nuts. People on this very podcast thought that I was nuts.
Well, because it's been our entire lifetimes that the U.S. doesn't qualifies. I mean, you're playing Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago was ready to celebrate and have fireworks and everything in '89. Oh, wait a minute, look what happened.
I know, but that was a different U.S. team at that point.
Exactly, and there were two sons of players on that '89 team who played for TNT tonight. I'm just saying.
Okay, you have a good point. I'm just trying to say that the U.S.
I'm not saying we didn't crap the bed, because we did, and you're going to need a lot of Clorox bleach to clean that up. But again, come on now.
Yeah, but for outside of the playoffs and then some of the
this just
African
won't go
nations,
away with the power of OxyClean, let me tell you.
Yeah, Senegal is not completely qualified yet. They have to wait on what happens with Cape Verde and Burkina Faso as well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Egypt for sure. Morocco still has to wait on Ivory Coast. See what happens there. They're within a point of each other. Nigeria has qualified, and Tunisia has to wait on what happens with Congo. So that'll all get settled in November with some of the African teams. We'll know the playoffs for the rest of what's left on the continental playoffs there. But yeah, we have, once again, going through Russia, Brazil, Iran, Japan, Mexico, Belgium, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Germany, England, Spain, Nigeria, Costa Rica, Poland, Egypt, Iceland, Serbia, Portugal, France, Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia, and Panama. All in right now. Iceland and Panama, the first time they've qualified ever. And the closest in that list after that is the third time qualifying for Egypt. Everybody else has plenty. It's gonna be a weird summer, guys.
Yeah.
Weird summer.
We'll just drink it away. I'll come down to Florida and we'll just drink it away.
Yep.
Oh,
I'll need to go to the bars and watch games and drink. But all right, we'll be back tomorrow talking.
I know some fine establishments in my city that I can take you to.
I'd love to come. I've never been to Jacksonville. It would be really cool to go up there. We need to do that. We'll be back tomorrow talking NWSL Championship and MLS on the playoff run continuing. See you later, everybody.
Meh.
Stay swifty.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.